In 1965, Industrial Motive Corp. Out of Troy, Michigan, released a plastic kit in 1/25th scale of the 1964 Ford GT Mark I. Probably a year later or so, I discovered this company and this particular kit on the shelf in my local drugstore and fell in love with the box art, took a look at the kit as I could see it from the box and said, I have to have it. And if I didn't buy it that day, I certainly did by the weekend. It was labeled as an advanced kit, not for beginners. I was 11 or 12 years old at the time, and I recalled, and my memory was, this was the most exquisite model car I had ever built up to that time in my young life. And of course, it was of a car that I absolutely loved. By the time I purchased it, Ford had, after 3 years running, finally won Le Mans with the Ford GT Mark II, a big block V8 Ford V8. This was the original prototype in the original American racing colors of blue and white. I thought, and that model is long gone, that I had built a little gem. So to jump ahead, many, many years later, almost 60 years later, I decided it was time to indulge nostalgia, see if I could find a used kit. And now that my modeling skills in theory had progressed and I had learned a whole bunch of stuff over the years, I could make an even better version. Well, I succeeded in finding a vintage kit. It had been opened. All of the parts were there except for a couple of knockoff hubs and the tail lights. Not bad. I didn't really discover until I started the assembly process. Not the dry fitting, mind you, but actually when cement meets plastic, how warped some of the pieces were. Specifically the center spar T-frame, which is kind of critical because that's where the doors, cutout doors meet on the roof. That's where the windshield meets. That's where the bonnet meets in the front and the trunk lid. Bottom line, it was a bear to assemble, and as much as I tried with putty and other materials to eliminate the gaps, I realized this thing wasn't going to come together as a clean model. But let's soldier on to the finish. Let's get it done and chalk it up to the vagaries of expectations versus and memories. They may not be as reliable, the memories that is, of how things really were. I'm not sure I learned a whole lot with this build, except that restoration of models, old models where there's a lot of repair work to do, there are still many, many skill things I need to learn. I'm not going to rotate this car because, trust me, this is the better side. The other side along the tub and the door frame, etc., are even more patchy. I did succeed in painting a roundel, so I learned that there on the front, and it's relatively clean. I like the colors. That's my own blue. It's a bit lighter than what you see in the box art, but I think I paired up the blue of the bonnet to the aftermarket decals, and of course I did put in a driver. A 1/24th scale driver, so we had to do a little surgery, but we got him in. Besides the ill-fitting, I'll call it the T-bar, which created enormous problems, The other major issue was aligning the bonnet. I got it down almost to where it should be. And all of the clear plastic parts were pretty scratched and marred. I gave them treatment in Pledge, Future, you know, the clearish, liquidy floor wax. I remember that being magic with respect to clear plastic parts. It didn't really do its magic everywhere. Not so bad on the headlamps, but not a good job at all in terms of the front windscreen. Well, with all that being said, I'm not sure that I'm going to search eBay for any of the subsequent models. I had the Mark II and the Mark IV. I skipped the J car, which IMC also made. I remember all of them being just dandy little cars, but I doubt that I'd be able to find one that would be as forgiving of my bumbling. And so we'll just leave it at this one and put it way on a top shelf somewhere. Thanks for watching, folks.